and different legacy decks and modern decks. He's just trying to break through into the elimination rounds, and he's always been very, very close, and always a lot of deep runs for Fear, but just hasn't cracked through into those top 8s just yet.
Now, where the rise of lands and the rise of Omnitel are both decks that really, I think, have gotten bigger as combo decks have left the format. They're both generally pretty decent against fair decks. Now, this is a matchup that's going to be difficult for Fear. If lands has an Achilles heel, it's that because it's interacting on this anti-creature axis, it can struggle with just a lot of goldfish draws. It doesn't have that many ways to interact with Rudy, and it can't erase him either. Game 1 is a difficult matchup for Fear. They have some reasonable plays out of the board, and I guess we'll get to them at that point.
Yeah, they've gone to some interesting sideboarding plans, have players against Omnitel, which is a show and tell based deck. But as you mentioned, we'll get to that when we get to the sideboards here. Looks like both players resolving some mulligans. We'll be ready to go here in just a moment. We'll be keeping our eyes on a lot of the players that are here in attendance. Again, 526 in Washington, D.C. A lot of great names in this field. And soon enough, we'll be crowning ourselves a champion. This Fear is going to take another mulligan. Fear and Briksza, two players that are familiar with each other, see each other at a lot of tournaments, so I imagine each knows what the other is playing this weekend. For Briksza, Omnitel, for Fear, lands. It looks like Fear is going to take another mulligan. Land's actually a deck that does mulligan relatively well. Life and Loam does a great job of undoing mulligans.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of its power is focused in so few cards that it's not how many cards does he have in his hand. It's important. It's which cards are in his hand. Land's almost closer to a dredge deck in that regard.
It is a deck that does mulligan quite a bit because it does have difficulty operating without Life and Loam. So you're looking for Life and Loam or you're looking for Gamble, one of the two, to be able to operate accordingly. Gamble typically just finding Life and Loam and you're going from there and getting your engine online. The deck is a little bit more spell heavy nowadays. You know, initially when lands kind of showed up, it was called 43 because it played 43 lands and 17 spells. Now there are a lot more spells in the deck. You've got 4 copies of Punishing Fire, 4 Exploration, 2 Mana Bonds, 4 Gamble, 4 Crop Rotation, 4 Life and Loam. Also 4 copies of Mox Diamond too, which is kind of a land, but it also needs a land to operate, so it's a weird in-betweener.
So where this will be difficult for Harlan is against a deck like Sneak and Show. His game plan can revolve sometimes around things like he can try to Glacial Chasm or use some anti-creature things to stop the creatures from attacking. Now Omnitel doesn't actually, at least it does have 2 Emrakuls, but it also has a completely spell-based way to win with Release the Ants. And because of that, that's going to make this more difficult for Harlan. He can't use any of these individual hate cards to disrupt the combo, so his plan instead is going to revolve around trying to, well, Mace port lock Rudy for a while, so get a lot of Rishad imports, really attack Rudy's mana. It's difficult for Harlan again because Wastelands don't attack Rudy's mana. He has just a stack of islands, really.
Now, outside of those 2 volcanic islands, you're not really going to get Rudy's lands, and he's going to be fetching for basics in this matchup anyway.
Harlan casting Gamble accidentally reveals the card he gets off Gamble, but it's not really an accident. Everybody knows what he was getting.
Yeah, you're getting Life and Loam. It's a 5. Let's try again. 1 through 4. 1. Let's go into the graveyard. Dark Depths.
The other thing Harlan can do here is he can get a very quick Dark Depths Thespian stage. It's possible that he can actually race the combo deck.
Yep.
There are not copies of anything like Repeal, or a bounce spell in the main of Rudy's deck. Now, of course, he does play a Cunning Wish package, so if it looks like he may lose the combo to the combo, he can go get a bounce spell, but that's not the fastest.
Preordain is how Briksza started things off.
Yeah,
For Fear, he's going to play Life and Loam, get back his Wooded Foothills and a Dark Depths, and you can already see where he's going because he's got a Thespian stage on the battlefield as well. Briksza going to play a copy of Ataxian Probe for free, Exploration, Punishing Fire, Foothills, and Dark Depths. That's the grip there for Fear. It's very clear what his plan is right now.
Yeah, no, if he had found a way to sequence that Exploration in here, he would be able to combo next turn. Now, as is, he's going to need an additional turn. But he does have it there, and Rudy does not have too many ways to interact with it. So it's a plan. Will it work? Maybe.
Briksza going to shuffle with the Ponder. Now, the reason that players have moved towards Omnitel is, one, as you mentioned, it is a bit of a slower format, but two, this deck is just very consistent now because it has so many cantrips with Preordained, Ponder, and Brainstorm. With the fetch lands, Gataxian Probe can get through its deck a lot to be able to just find Show and Tell, defend itself, resolve Omniscience, and just go from there.
Exactly.
If you're going to dredge, Wasteland, Life in the Loam, and Forest will be placed into the graveyard, Life in the Loam back in the hand. This will be an attempt at an exploration. You saw him play a land already for the turn there.
Yeah, doesn't want to be spell pierced, or at least wants the ability to pay for it if he is.
Fear will sacrifice his Wooded Foothills, search up a Taiga. Again, he's got a second land that he can play because of exploration, so we might see Loam this turn, and then next turn play the Dark Depths and try to kill him.
Exactly.
And really, as complicated as Legacy can be, this is really straightforward stuff. Harlan's got one game plan here.
Well, and I mean, it speaks to his deck. He doesn't really have other options either. Now, Rudy did pick up a copy of Cunning Wish here, which means that if Harlan goes for the 2020, which really I would expect him to do, Rudy can wish for a bounce spell if he doesn't feel like he can combo yet. That said, it really would only delay things a turn. There is Exploration and Life from the Loam going on Harlan's side.
Harlan will play a Forest and a copy of Dark Depths. He's setting up the stage plus Depths kill. For those unfamiliar, a brief explanation.
Sure, so Thespian Stage can copy Dark Depths, and then the Legend rule will come into play because they're both legendary, so immediately Harlan will have to sacrifice one of them. Now, if he sacrifices the Thespian Stage that turned into Dark Depths, well, it didn't get ice counters when it entered the battlefield. So if you look at the wording on Dark Depths, what Dark Depths says is that if Dark Depths has no ice counters on it, if it has no ice counters on it, sacrifice it, which can happen immediately. And if you do, put an indestructible legendary 2020 Merit Lage into play.
And the original combo with Dark Depths was with Vampire Hexmage.
Yeah. So yes, when you get the legendary, you sack the Dark Depths of the Legend rule, and then your no ice countered Thespian Stage Depths is the one that turns into a 2020. So you do lose both the lands.
Here's Show and Tell. That's an Omniscience.
All right, well, Harlan may have the 2020, but that may not matter.
Yep, he's going to get a Cunning Wish, will Briksza. He'll search his sideboard for a card. Again, all these spells are free because Omniscience is on the battle here for Rudy. This is how Omnitel does go off. You Show and Tell Omniscience in the battlefield, and then you find a way. Typically, you can do it through cantripping and casting Death Through Time. You're going to want to find a Cunning Wish, and depending on what Rudy's kill is this weekend,
right,
which is going to be Firemind's Foresight. Firemind's Foresight is the card that's being cast, so he gets to search for a 1 mana, 2 mana, and 3 mana instant. Brainstorm is 1, Cunning Wish is 2, and we'll see if he actually has a 2 mana instant in his deck. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, it's Split Decision, which is a twin cast variation. Okay, so Rudy did all that pretty quickly. We can kind of go through what's going on here. The reason first of all, Omniscience gets into play. That's the easy part. Now
Yep.
all Rudy stuff's free. The reason they play a Firemind's Foresight in their sideboard is if they don't have multiple cantrips or something in their hand, it's just a card advantage spell. So he Cunning Wishes for Firemind's Foresight. He gets his one of Split Decision, which is a twin cast. He gets another Cunning Wish, and then he gets a 1. It doesn't really matter what the 1 is. Plays Cunning Wish, copies it. Then he can go ahead and, if you look at the sideboard, I believe the card he ended up getting there was a Eladamri's Call and a Release the Ants. And then he had that Brainstorm left over from the Firemind's Foresight. So Eladamri's Call gets a creature. He gets from his deck and puts it in hand. He gets Emrakul, puts it in his hand. He uses that Brainstorm from the Foresight to Brainstorm. Get the Emrakul that he got, put it on top of his deck. And then that last Cunning Wish he played gets Release the Ants, which is a 1 damage spell that clashes. If you win the clash, you get it back. And he has an Emrakul on top of his deck and Release the Ants, and he can cast it for free. So at that point, he just does 20 to Harlan.
That's easy.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because these kills, there have been a lot of kills for the deck, and the question is, okay, what's the leanest way to do it? And why this is interesting is it costs him a few sideboard slots. He has to have a Eladamri's Call, a Firemind's Foresight, and a Release the Ants. He has to play at least 1 Emrakul in the main, but that's fine because that's actually not that bad. Sometimes you just Omniscience and cast Emrakul, and that's great. And all he really has to do to get this kill in his deck is, well, play some Cunning Wishes and play 1 Split Decision, which that's like the bad card, quote unquote, that he has to put in his main deck. And it's only 1 of them, so it's really low investment.
Well, that bad card led it to a win for Rudy, so he's up a game here over Harlan as we take a look at the sideboards, and we will start with Fear. He's got 2 Chalice of the Void, 2 Choke, 4 Crows and Grip, a Molten Vortex, a Bajuka Baga, Caracas, and most importantly, 4 copies of Trinisphere. This one's actually pretty good, is Trinisphere, because Trinisphere has this weird rule where it overrules everything.
Yes.
So what players have been kind of going towards and gravitating towards to be an Omnitel is when they cast Show and Tell, you put a Trinisphere on the battlefield, they put an Omniscience on the battlefield. Their spells are free, but they're +3 mana.
Yeah, the shorthand, as you said, if there's a Trinisphere in play and anything else that reduces mana cost, like say a delve, it's like, oh, well, can I delve my spell down? But no, Trinisphere generally just wins out in those trades. Your spells have to cost at least 3. So even if you have something that says you may play your spells for free, they're going to cost 3, and that's going to shut down Rudy's combo. If he's paying 3 for each card, I mean, release the Answering your opponent 20 times costs 60 mana at that point.
It's a little expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we're not playing High Tide, we're playing Omnitel, so we can't do that.
So those are the options there for Fear, and expect to see cards like Trinisphere, Choke, Chalice to the Void, and even Crows and Grip come in. He's got plenty of garbage to sideboard out, like Punishing Fire. Crop rotation is kind of medium in this matchup, so we'll definitely see him up the combo hate and board down some of the stuff that interacts with creatures like Maze of Ith as well. On the other side of things for Briksza, mostly he's a Cunning Wish deck, so what does he have in his sideboard?
Right, so when you say he's a Cunning Wish deck, what that means is that his sideboard, a lot of the things are things that he wants to find with Cunning Wish or parts of his combo. He has a Surgical Extraction in his sideboard, which is excellent against lands, though to be completely honest, he probably would just want to leave that in the sideboard so that he can Cunning Wish for it. It's better than boarding it in. I don't imagine he'll do board in anything. A lot of these things are things you just leave in the sideboard so that you can wish for them. He does have 2 Monastery Mentors in his board. If he, against certain decks, he can go for that plan instead. But attacking lands with creatures seems poor. Even if Harlan boards 10 cards, his deck is still extremely good against creatures.
Well, we'll see how players want to sideboard here as they do get ready for game number 2, Will Briksza and Fear. If you are just joining us, however, it is Cedric Phillips and Matthias Hunt along with Nick Miller in the sideboard and the rest of the Star City Games live crew. We're in round number 3 here from Washington, D.C. It's legacy action here today, where we'll be covering 9 rounds. And then 6 tomorrow. We'll cut to a top 8. We'll have 3 more elimination rounds, and eventually we'll crown a champion here. Someone will be walking away with $5,000, 25 Open Series points, and an invite to our Season 3 Invitational. Could be Rudy Briksza, could be Harlan Fear, number 16 and number 15 on our Season 3 leaderboard, respectively, as they do get ready here for game number 2. It's a tough matchup here for Fear. Lands versus Omnitel generally does favor Omnitel. We'll see if Harlan's sideboard here, a lot of anti-Omnitel cards in Trinisphere, Choke, and Chalice of the Void, if they can play a role.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like when you play a combo deck against lands, is that game 1 is one of the more lopsided things you can see in Legacy. And then post-board, their deck, it's a really lopsided matchup, and then they have about somewhere from like 5 to 10 cards that completely wreck you. And if they get them out early, I mean, I've had there's situations where they'll just, not even this card, these cards, sometimes they'll play Sphere of Resistance into Thorn of Amethyst, and you're just like, oh, yeah, like my Storm deck can never beat that, or, but he needs to draw those cards, and he's hoping that they'll just do tons of work on their own.
You see Harlan Fear pile of shuffling, getting ready to take a look at 6 cards. We'll learn a little bit more about him. 20-year-old from Charlottesville, Virginia. Won Open Series top 8, which was a win against Shaheen Sarani in the finals back when we were in Richmond during Season 4 of the Open Series. Got the job done with Jeskai tokens there. Put that deck on the map right before you and Watanabe went nuts with it at the World Championships last year. He's a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan and donates his hair after it reaches a certain length, which is why it's so long right now. And a former wrestler in high school. Something he and I both have in common. So perhaps we will have a duel, a contest, start a feud, as it were.
All right.
I would probably lose, but it would be fun to do battle against Harlan, as he'll take a look at his 6 cards now and see if he can find a better hand or not. He's been mulliganing a lot in this matchup, but that's also not much of a surprise if you think about it. In this matchup, you are just looking for specific cards.
So I'll say I did wrestling one year. I tried it. I always was really amazed. So like, I would look at the guys who were in like my weight class and be like, how are people who are, I always thought people who were like that built would weigh more, because I'd be like, wait, that's like the guy I'm supposed to wrestle. It's like, I can't beat that guy.
Well, not with that attitude.
No, I just thought, I don't know. I'm bad at.
Sounds like you need to go to the gym a little more.
I guess so.
That's all that is. Or eat less.
Yeah.
Eat less and start cutting.
I know.
Cutting weight in a very unhealthy way.
That was good.
That's another way to go about
I was like,
it.
how'd you get to be that light and have that much muscle? That's not fair.
A Grove of the Burn Willows is where Harlan's going to start. He's going to play a gamble. Now, this actually is a gamble, and the reason I say that is because Harlan actually has a copy of Trinisphere in his hand, which is an A+ in this matchup. So if he adds to discard that, that's going to suck.
Sure will. That's just kind of how it is right now. So let's see. I mean, he could honestly just gamble for another Trinisphere. He could get a Loam, or he could just get a second Trinisphere and just be like, all right, well, I'm gonna hope one of these resolves.
That's
not even a bad play.
it's actually not terrible. It's definitely a gamble, an aptly named card.
It's like, oh,
Yeah. It is aptly named. 5 cards here. 6 will be a reroll. 2, what's going? Loam, perfect.
I mean, okay. So if Gamble's just Entomb, then you probably want to get Loam.
Rudy will draw a card. He'll start by playing Ataxian Probe. Get a good look at an Exploration, a Trinisphere, a Choke, and a Rishadan Port.
Oh, okay. So if he has a Choke, he doesn't need to gamble for another Trinisphere. He already has 2 of his cards, the cards he wants.
And I was going to say that Choke isn't the end-all be-all in this matchup. It is certainly good, but it's not, the end game. But in combination with Rishadan Port, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because Rudy can just play a turn 3 show and tell and be like, well, my lands are never untapped, but that's fine.
Loam is going to target Thespian Stage. We'll see if this resolves. And it will. So Stage will come back to the hand. Loam will go to the graveyard. We're going to head back Rudy's way. He'll play a Brainstorm on the end step, so he'll draw 3 cards and, of course, put 2 back. Show and Tell is 1. Island is 2. City of Traders is 3. City of Traders is a card not affected by good old Choke. Here's a Flooded
Yeah,
Shell.
it's really interesting with their Choke and play because it can untap as long as you don't play any other lands.
I mean, obviously you're going to bring Choke in against the mono blue deck, but I think that...
It's not great.
Yeah, I don't think it's great. I think it's certainly fine, really good with Port, but also keep in mind this is a deck that has a lot of fetch lands, too. I believe this is the Jace Vryn's Prodigy. All right. That's a little bit of a spicer.
Yeah, so this is one of our first Magic Origins card here in Legacy. All right, so Jace the O2, he is a Merfolk Looter unless you get 5 cards in your graveyard, and then he transforms.
Yeah. I think Harlan's going to try to choke him here, and this is not going to resolve. Force of Will removing a Show and Tell. That's notable, removing Show and Tell here.
It's a great test spell, though. Nice Force of Will drawn, though, from Rudy. And here's the difficulty, right? Harlan's all in kind of on two spells, and if Rudy has 2 Force of Wills, life becomes difficult.
Jace is flipping now. So it is now the Telepath Unbound. The plus ability doesn't matter a ton here. The Snapcaster Mage effect is relatively good in a deck with a lot of cantrips, but if you can get an emblem where it says you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library in his or her graveyard, that is actually a reasonable way to try to go about beating lands.
Yeah, I don't know if Rudy can afford to plus it for 4 turns. Looks like he's going to try.
Harlan's also in this weird spot, too, where now I don't really think he wants to be casting Trinisphere because he wants his spells to actually be cheap.
Yeah, well, this is good. It's interesting because this is good Trinisphere insurance in that if he casts Trinisphere here, then the ultimate on Jace does matter. Well, unless he has a Dark Depths. And then he would just cast Trinisphere and be fine.
Now, his loaming has not been particularly good. He's only got to return 1 land, which was the Thespian Stage, and it's already on the battlefield, but he's turned over all spells. You saw the last one, it turned over another loam, a Trinisphere, and a crop rotation. So this is part of the drawback of playing so many spells in your deck with the lands deck. You want to have a high density of lands so that your loams are always good, but you also have to balance that with having spells that are relevant in the matchup.
Rudy will go for a Dig Through Time. And yet Jay's putting pressure on Harlan enough that he doesn't want to cast the Trinisphere, but if he doesn't cast it, I'm interested to see what he'll go for. He can crop rotate here.
Gonna float a mana, cast crop rotation, sacrifice Rishadan Port. I'm interested to see what he's gonna search for. Okay, just gonna get depths and try to go 2020 style.
Seems great.
Doesn't have the mana to do it this turn, unfortunately. He's got 1 mana floating, but stage takes 2 to activate.
He would need... Yeah, he just needs to draw land next turn.
Yep. So Rudy's taking a look at the top 7. And with Dig Through Time, you get to take 2 of them.
All right, so back over to Rudy's side. He has a Jace going.
It's going to tick down.
Yeah.
Flashback Brainstorm. Emrakul, a Spell Pierce, and a Scalding Tarn. Those are the cards.
Spell Pierce will give him additional insurance against Trinisphere, but that's not really what the game's about anymore. It's about combating the Thespian Stage Dark Depths combo.
What's weird about this now is if you're Harlan, I think you just have to take a draw step.
Yeah, you just have to draw your land.
Yeah, which is weird because you're a deck that wants to dredge a lot, but I think he just has to try to draw a land.
Well, he can try. Yep, if he gets it, he does.
Yep.
Thespian Stage.
I mean, you're the math scientist here in the booth, and we're not entirely sure how Harlan has sideboarded here for this matchup, but you have to imagine that there are more lands than spells in his deck, so the percentage chance of him hitting a land that'll enter the battlefield untapped that taps for mana is probably pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be over. The question is not, yeah, the math is fine. It'll be high. I think the question is whether or not he wants to take the risk of taking, you know, if he tries for the draw step twice and bricks twice, which maybe happens about 20% of the time, then it's bad. And so the question is that risk worth it, or does he just want to not get it this turn, dredge loam, and then be sure to have it the next turn? And I think here he felt enough pressure that he said, okay, I would rather take the risk, try to hit it this turn. Rudy going for Cunning Wish. It is dangerous. If you're Harlan Fear.
Harlan's out of here. Actually, she's got a question to ask, so we will pause the game for just a moment. Now, Rudy's trying to resolve Cunning Wish. What do we think he's searching for here? Because you've got the singletons in front of you.
So if Rudy has a bounce spell, then I think he wants to search for Surgical Extraction because then when the Dark Depths dies, he can get rid of Dark Depths. So if he already has an answer for the 2020. If he doesn't have an answer for the 2020, he may need to get a way to bounce it. That said, if he has a way to win on the following turn, it really depends on what the rest of his hand looks like here.
Yeah, he's got a Spell Pierce, a Force of Will, Emrakul over there. He does have Wipe Away as far as bounce spells are concerned to take care of the Dark Depths Avatar token.
He has a Trick Bind in his sideboard that he could also use.
Yep. And keep in mind, this is on the end of Harlan's turn that this is taking place. And he's going to go grab a Wipe Away.
All right, so that will answer the 2020.
Pluto dealt to the draw here for Rudy. It's time for a Brainstorm, so he'll draw 3. Emrakul, Omniscience, and Brainstorm.
A little too much of the big stuff right now. Certainly don't want a second Emrakul. Questionable if you... One of the reasons I do like having the first one is it lets him use his Cunning Wishes for more utility. Now it means if he gets Show and Tell, he can Show and Tell Omniscience into play and just cast Emrakul immediately.
Well, what's interesting here, I think, is, with how Harlan's playing this game, Harlan's never going to cast, it appears at least, that Trinisphere. It's just something he's going to put in off of Show and Tell. So I actually think that Rudy wants to keep one copy of Emrakul in his hand, and if he does find a Show and Tell, he might just want to Show and Tell Emrakul into play instead of Omniscience. It seems as though, at this point, no, there's no guarantee that the Omniscience kill is becoming more difficult to do.
Right, and because he knows he can't actually just show and tell the Omniscience into play because of the Trinisphere response, so he wouldn't get to Emrakul unless he has 6 lands.
Yes, if he has 6 lands, then he's okay.
Right, which he's very close to.
Yeah. You saw Thespian Stage actually copy Grove of the Burn Willows, so Harlan not willing to make a move right now with just making a Dark Depths token. Especially, I mean, he knows that Rudy has Wipe Away in his hand. He wished for it, so moving in on that doesn't really accomplish very much.
What I like about this stage copying Grove is it allows Harlan to play this Exploration, then cast a Life from the Loam, and try to just get more lands and continue to reload here. It's dangerous. Rudy's getting into enough territory, and I think Harlan has to be aware that the 6th land is relevant here. It means that the Trinisphere is not adequate protection anymore.
Looks like Loam is going to target Rashad and Port. It's going to get Spell Pierced.
Pretty reasonable. Very few things to Spell Pierce out of Harlan's deck.
Harlan's last card in hand is Trinisphere. Rudy knows that. He's going to cast a Brainstorm yet again. Emrakul, Tundra, and Force of Will. Tundra and Force of Will are going to go back, sacrifice the Polluted Delta, shuffle away the garbage. This Omnitel deck is very fluid.
And cantrips are great.
Yeah. It'll find what it's looking for, given enough time.
I'm interested in him keeping all those Force of Wills. Having land 6 didn't seem horrible.
Dig through time.
Yeah, Jace using that flashback ability, though, that's going to be pretty big. He should be able to find a show and tell off this and then combo next turn.
Well, he did find a show and tell. He also found land number 6 if he wants to go that route. One of the things he can even do here, because he has a surgical extraction in his sideboard, he can wish for surgical away the Trinisphere in Harlan's graveyard because he's dredged into a couple, and that'll eliminate the one that's in his hand too. So oddly enough, Rudy's got a lot of paths that he can go down here. Seems like he's in a great spot.
Right, so yeah, he can Cunning Wish for the surgical away the Trinispheres, then go ahead and combo. So before he can just show and tell it into play and pay 3 for Emrakul.
Yep.
Then untap, get another turn with 6 mana.
Time to dredge, Crows and Grip, Trinisphere, Dark Depths.
Harlan's dredges have certainly been below average.
To say the least. I think we're going to see Harlan try to cast Life and Loam because he's really got no other choice. Wouldn't be surprised if Rudy just Force of Wills this. Yep, removing a Taxian Probe. He'll have to pay a life to do so. And he'll untap, he'll take a draw to copy a show and tell. He's going to sacrifice the Flooded Strand pretty quickly here. We'll search up a Volcanic Island. A lot of resiliency in this build of Omnitel. Again, with the Sneak and Show version, you're pretty straightforward what you can do.
Yep, and he's just going to go the straightforward line. Yep, pays 3 for Emrakul.
Yep. He'll untap. He'll take a draw. Harlan's going to lose a lot of stuff.
To be fair, Rudy didn't even use Jace that turn.
Unbelievable.
Come on, Rudy, tight play.
Annihilator trigger, I hope you remember that one. This could get awkward.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for Harlan to... No, I mean, he's about to lose his board.
Well, as long as Rudy remember the Annihilator trigger. All right, there we go. There, I would say there's what we were looking for. Rudy Briksza is going to win this match here over Harlan Fear, 2-0. Briksza with his Omnitel deck will take care of lands in what is a really, really good matchup, I think, for Omnitel.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. Lands has some play. It has some hateful sideboard cards. But the fact that all these mono blue combo decks are so good at having wild cards, at turning, their cantrips into whatever they need to have, means that even though Harlan, he has some routes of attack, it's very easy for Rudy to answer them. And then on top of that, Rudy just has some proactive draws that Harlan can't deal with.